make it as simple as possible. Redgate runs a survey every year. We send out to anybody we can get to fill it out, and this is, we're going to reveal, well, we've already revealed, but we're going to reveal and talk about the results of the survey. Wow, that's not my fault. I didn't move someplace I wasn't supposed to. Anyway, we're going to talk about the survey, and that's it. To get going, let's go. Come on. What's going on? Of course it's not working. Why would it work? That would be stupid. There we go. Cool. My name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software as the DevOps advocate, and that's really all you need to know. I'm a nerd, and I love talking about stuff. With me...
Yeah, hi, I'm Danielle Summers. Recently hired into Redgate Software. I'm tech lead, currently heading up one of the teams working on Test Data Manager, which we will be talking about shortly.
Excellent. So anyway, we're going to be talking about landscapes today. Now this is Oklahoma. Oklahoma has one of the most varied landscapes in all of the United States. Now the only type of landscape we do not have is ocean. We are completely landlocked. But you can tell that there's mountains and trees, and we've got a desert, and we've got all kinds of other stuff going on. And so it... Really? All right, I'm told I am supposed to be talking about database landscapes. All right, so here's my survey. Here's my story. I'm a SQL Server nerd. I've been a SQL Server nerd since Microsoft started doing SQL Server. I was a SQL Server nerd on Sybase before Microsoft started doing it. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. The gray hair is real. This is not a costume. And I love it. But a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to add to my skill set. And so I started chasing Postgres. I put the plus sign up on purpose because I've had a lot of people accuse me of abandoning SQL Server because I've been talking about Postgres a lot. And I'm not getting rid of SQL Server. I'm not getting away from SQL Server. I still love SQL Server. I did a 100 minutes session on extended events. Was anybody there? And why were you not there? Anyway, I did 100 minutes on extended events just on Tuesday. I love SQL Server, but I needed to learn more. And the reason I needed to learn more is because I recognize that more and more people, and it's in the survey, we'll be talking about it in a minute, more and more people are using more than one platform. And I decided I needed to get on more than one platform, but I didn't really know how. And so I did a lot of experimentation. I did a lot of play. I did a lot of reading, and I tracked things down. And I decided finally that I wanted to go to Postgres as a platform. And the reason I chose Postgres, well, I mean, there's one reason why I chose Postgres. Postgres has a community that's just as vibrant as this one. I mean, you are neck deep in the SQL Server community right here. This is largely a SQL Server event. It's not completely a SQL Server event, but it is largely a SQL Server event. And the reason that I love it is because this community, all the people out there, the people in the orange shirts, the volunteers, but also all the attendees, the speakers, the vendors, are kind of nice to each other. That we believe in the idea of a rising, a rising tide lifts all boats. And Postgres community does too. And I saw so much kindness around the Postgres community as I was researching and reading that drove me, even more than the technology, to start learning Postgres. It was very much the community that made the decision for me. There are other products out there that, I'm not going to name them. I would love to name them. I would love to pick on them, but I'm not going to, that don't have the friendly community. Sure, they've got events, but the events, people go in, there's a little bit of sharing, and then they run out the door and nobody talks to each other. It's kind of weird because I've never been involved with that. I've been involved with SQL Server where hugs are a thing and we all like each other and we all try to teach each other and share. Postgres is that way too. So I started learning it. Now, the way I started learning it was the way I learn a lot of things. I started writing articles. I started writing articles the moment I started learning. Why? It allowed me to order my thoughts. It gave me the ability to understand what it was that I wanted to say, what it was I wanted to do, but it allowed me to get my brain in order so I could then learn more. So I chased that down. I started doing cloud Postgres almost immediately. Why? Because the cloud makes a lot of stuff easy. I fired up containers. I mean, it took me a year before I actually did an install of Postgres because it's just so easy. Now, because of that, I also started submitting to events. And I got invited to go to Kansas City to a little meetup group up there. Drove up with my wife. She'd never been to Kansas City before. I hadn't been since I was 13 years old. And we had a lovely time. We got some good dinner, lovely barbecue in Kansas City. I recommend it. Good bourbon, too. But I met 3 people, because that's all who showed up at the meetup. But they were nice. We had a good conversation. I then submitted to an event in Malta. Yes, my company sent me to Malta. They didn't know what they were doing. I had a good time there. And then I got to go to a larger group. I got to go to PG Day in Chicago. And after that, I got to go to PG Conf here in Europe. It was held in Prague, just in December. And so I got to meet all these people, and it was lovely because it advanced my learning. I got involved, and so I got to the point where me and Slonic's the mascot for Postgres. Postgres has a mascot. SQL Server doesn't have a mascot. I feel that's a shortcoming, but Slonic and I are best buds now, and it's cool because of what we're going to talk about now, and that's the 2024 State of Landscape Survey, right? This is what you've told us you're doing on databases. This isn't me telling you what's going on in databases. This is the results of the survey. Now, the interesting thing is only 21% of all organizations are using a single database. 21. Everybody else has got 2 or more. Is this reflective of reality for you? Are you dealing with more than one database? Okay, cool. Mostly nodding heads. Excellent. Good to see. It was a bit of a surprise to me that 30% were dealing with 6 or more data platforms. And that's crazy and difficult. So, when you look at the popularity, the big 4 are pretty straightforward, right? Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, and Postgres. But the really interesting thing about Postgres is the shape of that line. Now, this is a logarithmic scale, so when we add in stuff like MongoDB and Snowflake, they look like they're pretty big, but they're not as big as the top 4. And when you throw in all the other databases, you kind of get a sense of what's going on. And by the way, this is from DB Rankings. Anybody familiar with that website? Look up DB Rankings. It's a fantastic, fantastic resource. All it really is a collection. They've got an algorithm that they base off of questions on the internet and postings and questions on X and Facebook and other stuff, and they combine it all to come up with a popularity of databases. And it's interesting the way things are going. Oracle, MySQL are shrinking. SQL Server's shrinking a bit. Postgres isn't. And so there's a lot going on there. Some of the other database things are shrinking as well. But you get an idea of what's going on. There's a lot of activity. Now, why multi-platform? That's the question that comes up. And this is what we were told. You could select multiple answers on this survey. 44%, it's the tech. Right? There's different technology solving different problems in different ways. 34%, they wanted flexibility. They just didn't want to have to deal with licensing. They wanted a cost savings for 27%. Now, we can have an argument about whether or not, just the licensing alone saves you money, because it doesn't. Most of your costs come from other places, but fine. At least you save that licensing money. You're still going to spend a lot of other money, but okay. It's interesting, the move, right? So the effects of it is what really matters, though, because 35% has said increased complexity. We've got more than one data platform. Who here is an Oracle expert? One. Awesome. Do you have SQL Server in your house too? Are you a SQL Server expert as well? Okay. This was the answer, a shaking of the hand, because this stuff is hard. Who here is a SQL Server expert? Good chunk of the room, most of it. And do you know Postgres? No. And a shaking of the hand, which is where I would be. I do not know Postgres. I'm learning it. I'm getting better. But yeah, it increases complexity, and our knowledge is not there. So we need to diversify our skills. You're an Oracle expert. You're here at this event. Are you picking up SQL Server skills? Yeah, excellent, excellent. Not picking on you, by the way. I hope you don't feel that way anyway. Cool, good. Excellent. That's exactly it. I was at the Postgres events, going to all the things, taking notes. Oh my God, I didn't know that. Really cool. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. And so what's finding is, this is a quote: if you don't offer a centralized solution for monitoring of all types of databases, then people won't use it. And so this is the stuff that we've been hearing from everyone. So because of that, we're making changes. And you get further into it, and it gets interesting. Where are your databases at? Who here is 100% local, 100% on-prem? One. Okay. Who's 100% in the cloud? Three. Well, we know what the rest of the answer is. Who's hybrid? Yeah. So it's not a shock. 12% are on-prem, 18% are all cloud, 70% are hybrid, and that was reflected in the room. It's exactly the way things are going is what you see as you're going day to day. So why? Why are you going to the cloud? Well, 48% said scalability. Thomas Grosher would hear, he would have an argument with that. But a lot of us, scaling is hard. And if you can just go someplace, turn a dial, shell out a credit card, and get more, that's good, yes? Flexibility. Well, yeah, cloud's pretty flexible. There's a lot going on there. There's a whole bunch of things that you can switch on easily. High availability. Who here does high availability extremely well? Okay, I've got people laughing at me for asking the question. High availability and reliability are difficult. They are difficult. And doing that is not easy. So one of the reasons people are going to the cloud is for reliability. Now, it's interesting. 34% are saying cost efficiency. I don't work for Microsoft or AWS or Google, so I can ask this question. Whose costs went down when they went to the cloud? Anybody? Okay, cool. That's what I expected. I'm like, okay, cool. Again, not throwing rocks, not trying to be mean, but it's not unexpected. Of course, there's a cost on the cloud. You're paying for someone else's server. But there's at least a belief that if we go to the cloud, we can get a cost efficiency. It can be true. I know a few people who've had that, but it's not, often. So finding problems with queries is important because compute now costs money. Who gets excited about query performance tuning besides me? Actually, a good number of the room. Cool. Who gets more excited about query performance tuning because you can literally go to the boss and say, yeah, it's not that I increased the performance of that query by 30%. I saved us $10 a minute. Now that's exciting. Yes? Cool. So cost-based optimizations are now a part of the database's evolving role. That's cool. Because you're not, oh, I've shaved some CPU off. Who cares? I mean, I do, but If you say you've saved costs, suddenly the boss gets excited. So that's cool. Now, Redgate software, because this is a Redgate session, I get to say it. Redgate software is into this whole concept of end-to-end database DevOps. And the reason that we're chasing it hard these days is because all of this is hard, right? Provisioning servers is hard. Getting things ready for development. Making sure that we don't have the email addresses from our production server in the hands of the developers because they do heinous things with it. They do. I'm not picking on developers, but they do horrible stuff. They should. In development, it's where it should happen. It's okay until it's production data that they're sending emails from. Development occurs, things change, cool. Version control allows us to track who did what, where, when, how, why, because you're putting good comments in your code, right? Just lie to me and nod. Okay, good. That's cool. Good to hear. Because other people don't. But then you've got continuous integration, so you can ensure that everything's going forward. And, sorry, just keeping an eye on the time. And release management allows you to move everything between these environments. You go to production, and at the whole time, you're monitoring the entire thing. Cool. This is end-to-end database DevOps. We've got tooling for the whole circle. Now, provisioning is one of the things we're going to be talking about first today, and we'll get into that. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but the interesting thing is 60% of everyone out there in our survey, this is what you told us, uses production data for their test and development. Don't raise your hand. Do you do production data for test and development? Oh, you have a question? I forgot. Yeah. I don't have much time. Go ahead.
Do they have a dedicated production environment?
Do they have a dedicated production environment, or are they just developing in production? That I'm not sure we've got the information for you, but there's not that many people who are doing it. Pretty much it's. I came from an organization that in 2004, by mandate, written down, and thank God it was written down, we did everything, all production data was given to the development teams. And there was a problem, I'm not going to get into the details, and I was able to produce the piece of paper that said why I gave the developer all of production data that then was leaked and all kinds of other horrible things, and you don't want to know about it. But I was protected because I had the paper. So yeah, this is going on. And the deal is that this is hard. This whole thing of provisioning environments is difficult. Because, look, you don't need 10 terabytes of data to do development. I know some developers will argue that they do, but they don't. They don't need 10 terabytes of data to be able to do it. What they want to do is move quick and break things, and that's fine. I want them to move quick and break things. I just don't want them doing it with production data. A little thing called the GDPR might run into it, other stuff. But we need test databases. We need to be able to get them quickly, and we need to be able to have them so we can provision things fast. I mean, that's just how it goes. If we're not able to move things quickly, well, it's a global objective. We're spending $3.7 trillion to try to make things better. It's crazy. I mean, it's a lot of money. And so we have to be able to scale. If we're not scaling, we're not moving quickly. If we're not moving quickly, we're going to hit issues with our people, process, and products. I mean, it's DevOps. So it's all about efficiency, innovation, and compliance. We've got to meet all of them. We can't escape them. You can't dodge them. And the survey has borne that out. Now, we are trying to help you with this stuff. And so that's why we talk about end-to-end database DevOps. And we've got it as an infinite loop. Who's finished an application? And I mean finished it. Never did an update. We didn't have to release 1.1. There wasn't a bug. Okay, no hands. Good. That's exactly what I expect to see. Because no, they don't end. I mean, when Microsoft said, oh, most applications live 5 years. On what planet? But, okay, fine. So while we're trying to chase innovation, efficiency, and compliance, how do we do it? Well, first up, we're going to start standardizing software delivery. We have to. You can't have 15 teams deploying 15 ways and do things with efficiency. So we have to come up with some standards within our organizations. Next thing is, where possible, we have to automate. Again, manual processes, letting these fat fingers onto the production server will result in dropped indexes and dropped tables. Ask me how I know. I've never dropped a prod database yet. But I've dropped tables, I've dropped indexes, I've dropped functions, procedures. I've altered the wrong ones. I've deleted rows I wasn't supposed to delete. I can keep going. So we need to automate to get my fingers off the pie. And I know some of you out there are going, well, you just stink. No one should hire you. You're probably right. But it's too late. Redgate hired me. We need to be able to scale this process with the business. Our businesses are growing, which is a good thing. But our team may not be. Company made record profits. Can we have a second DBA? No. Okay, cool. And we have to identify and protect sensitive data because there's legal reasons. We can get in trouble. I mean, in the United States, there is a thing called HIPAA, and it's for health care information. If you knowingly violate HIPAA, if you knowingly release protected information, you as an individual, not your organization, not the company, not the CEO, you can go to prison. And there's actually been some people sent to jail. Woof. As a DBA, you know what that means? You don't get production data, because I'm not getting a new roommate named Tiny. Not worth it. So, we've been building this DevOps, and the DevOps stuff we do is used by a lot of organizations. Okay, cool. The thing is, it ain't easy. It ain't fun. There's a lot to it. We've got to get provisioning, we've got to get automation, we've got to get it all done, and we have to get it done quickly so it's in a protected fashion, and there's just no other way around it. Redgate's mission is creating ingeniously simple software. We want to help you, gives you value to any database, anywhere, because you are on 6 or more data platforms. So we need to be there too. You're on AWS and Google Cloud Platform and Azure. We need to be there too. You're on premises. We're already there, but we still want to join you, right? So we're not trying to hide from any of that stuff. So we want to give you the value for any database, anywhere. That's what we're after. I mean, it's just that simple. Now, right now, we're chasing the big 4. We're going after SQL Server, Postgres, and Oracle, and MySQL. Didn't mean to leave them out. I just needed a breath. Anywhere, we're doing them all. We've got AWS, we've got Azure, we're working on Google Cloud Platform, and we're already on-prem. As to value, I mean, that's kind of the decision you guys are going to make, not us, but we're chasing it down and trying to help you out with it because it's what we want to do, is really into it. Now, Danielle's doing all the heavy lifting from this point forward because she's going to talk about the products. I got to talk about a survey. That was fun. But now you get to talk about the actual tech. This is your turn, right?
Next slide.
Oh, next slide. Okay, cool. I'll go get out of the way.
I'm just hoping to click away.
It should. The big button.
The big button. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I've made a few mistakes in my career as an engineer. I've dropped production databases. I worked for a company that actually only ever worked against the production database, and it was critical to the whole business. And they didn't understand the need for a test database. They didn't understand the way to even stand one up. We were also using Oracle at the time, so it was a little bit locked in. But yeah, whereabouts are we? I'm going to walk you through a bit of a scenario, one of the millions of different situations where our end-to-end database DevOps solution can really come together. I'm not sure if you recognize this. This is Redgate Monitor. As mentioned before, we are on multiple platforms. In this case, it's SQL Server. We cover on-prem, on the cloud, on Linux. We've recently released a version for Postgres as well. We are trying to be everywhere for everybody's needs. But in this case, we've got a database up in the top left, highlighted orange. SQL Server is telling us that there's a problem here. So in this scenario, we're going to go and investigate what that problem is. So we're going to click on that one. And yeah, it looks like Monitor's picked up that there's a DTU spike. And Flyway, our deployment solution, is telling us that a deployment happened recently. So maybe the two are coinciding. We can drop into Flyway, and I'll dig into Flyway a little bit more later. But this is our version control solution. This allows us to understand that there was an object added. In this case, it's a stored procedure. And that stored procedure may have been the root cause. In SQL Monitor, we're double checking that we do have that DTU utilization flag. And we can also drill in to the most impactful queries here. And it looks like that top query is the one from that stored procedure. So here, we can then go further and check out what additional details it knows, the plan that was used to create that query, the estimates that we can get out of that. We can even go a step further and find recommendations on how to fix it. So right now, in this scenario, we have a database that's apparently been flagged as having an issue, DTU spike. So we're going to dig into that and understand that a bit further. We've checked out that there was a deployment that had happened. We've seen that a stored procedure was causing an issue. So we're going to then have to work out what the problem is. And the best way to do that isn't against the production database. It isn't the way that I used to do it 10, 12 years ago, because that was the way that the business ran. Our developers can have realistic test data, stuff that looks and feels exactly like it should, but it isn't going to be exposing anybody's sensitive information or PII. And we do that through TDM. Test Data Manager is our brand new tooling that bridges the gap from monitoring to deployment. In here, we can create images. A DBA can create an image of production from a backup file, and from there we create clones. Each clone is tiny and lightweight and takes seconds to spin up, and that image can be anonymized and masked out all of the personally identifiable information. And we'll go through that process here. We're going to create a new image. Here, we can select options to replace all of the data. Doesn't matter what it is, we will automatically replace all of it with like data. It's not the same thing, it's synthetic. In this case, we're going with sensitive data only. We're just masking out PII. We can also specify how large we want this database to be. As Grant mentioned before, we don't need to be working against terabytes of data. 1 gig, 10 gig is perfectly fine. We don't need to try and make a duplication of 10 terabytes because that's what the developers want. They don't need it. And we are multi-platform. SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, Oracle. In this case, our database is SQL Server 2022. And at this point now, all we need to do is really give it a name and point it at that backup file. And it's relatively straightforward at this point. Every step is clear. There's no ambiguity. It's straightforward. We can add a reference to our database so we can preview it and grab a connection string for it and test that connection string to the database that we're going to be challenging. All looks good. So we'll create a preview of what it is TDM thinks is going to happen next. In this process here, TDM is scanning the database, understanding the schema, understanding the context of the information that's been stored as column names, as field names, as the data itself, and understanding whether or not it should even be masked, because we asked for sensitive only. And it's done this in seconds. Examples of personally identifiable information or sensitive data is first names, last names, dates of birth, countries of origin, racial status, that type of thing. You can extend this further to cover social security numbers, credit card information. The sky is basically the limit when it comes to wanting to do anything with anonymization of your data. So from there, we've got our image. This is going to be our master record of what the data will look like for our users, for our developers going forward. So we're going to create a clone. We can see up there, it was a relatively small, just under a gig, and that's about what we asked for. So we're going to give our clone a name and create it. And this process takes seconds as well. This is lightweight. It's not storing a huge amount of information, and it's not particularly heavy to run in the cloud. Are we going to step on? I've gone too far. Trust me. I'm going to hold it there for a second, I think. Yeah, so I double pressed, my apologies. Now that we've got our clone, we can connect into it like it's a normal database. And hopefully we can actually go back to that. Nope.
This one goes back.
Yeah.
Where do you need to go to?
Should be going forward from here.
Okay, forward. Cool.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get back to where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. Go through the image, creating the clone.
Oh, sorry, I went way too back.
That's
Sorry.
okay. So anyway, back to where I should have been. At this point, we can connect to this clone like it's a normal database. We're going to copy the connection string, and I'm a little bit old school. I still like SSMS. It's very powerful, and it meets my needs. And here we can query against this database. We can view everything that's supposed to be there. Our views, our tables, store procedures, triggers, functions, everything is there. But we're going to skip all of that for this particular demo and go straight to the store procedure that we want to edit. It's the one that we saw had been created. So here, we can view this, and using Redgate's SQL prompts, we can ask it to improve the quality and the performance of our query. And SQL prompt is using proprietary AI combined with Redgate's database knowledge to provide the best possible results for you. In this case, it's ripped out a window function, and as explained at the top, we've also flipped an outer join to an inner. This is relatively fundamental stuff, but it does a hell of a lot more under the hood. And you can ask it to do pretty much anything. We were messing about with it earlier at the booth.
Yeah.
So now that we've got this new query, we need to save it. We need to test it. And this can still be done against the clone. This lightweight clone will manage the changes that we've requested of it. And it will also provide us the opportunity to test this and query against that data. And this is synthetic test data. And this looks perfectly fine. Relatively quick, too. So at this point, we've got our query. We've got our new store procedure saved. We need some way of grabbing that and bringing that up to our CI/CD solution. So back to Flyway. Flyway is our version control solution for databases. Again, multiple database solutions are available, covering Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL. In this one, we're going to be using the Past Data Summit database, as that one is the project relating to the database we've been checking out. And whilst this is loading in, it's going to compare against the clone that we've been using and understand what differences have happened. We don't need to tell it what's happened. It can find that for us. Double checking that we're actually using the clone. We are. And here we can see that we've got that object, that store procedure that's changed, and these appear to be our changes. We've left all the comments in from SQL prompt. This looks like what we actually want to commit. So we're going to save this to disk. And this is capturing the DDL, the create script. And we're capturing this for the purposes of holding onto it for version control. This is our who did what, where, and when part. So with that saved, we're going to be generating a migration script automatically. All of this takes place under the hood, keeping your data safe, whilst also working out what's actually relevant for the change. It'll even tell you if there's any other dependency issues and resolve them for you. And there we go, one migration script. We've also created automatically an undo script. This allows us to roll back to the previous version. And that undo script can be your starting point for getting back to where you were. It may not have been a perfect solution. It may have some data loss involved, and it will tell us if that's going to be the case. But it'll cover those cases for us. Now, let's save this. As we know that everything here is valid, but we can also edit it further if we want to, and start pushing this to our repository. Committing those changes gives us that version control, that version history. And as Grant said earlier, ideally we'd have reasonable comments in there to explain why we're doing these things. And we're done. So at this point, we've used monitor to double check what's going off. We've used Flyway to identify that there was a release. We've used TDM to provision a test database for our developers, to actually be able to test against and develop against, and then used Flyway to build the migration scripts to get us out the door. We can now integrate this into any CI/CD pipeline, typically as your DevOps. Gives us a very seamless pipeline. Same with AWS and Google. Here, you can also inject TDM's CLI into the process so that you can use TDM's clone creation tools to create unique environments specific for automated testing, gated QA testing, integration testing. And each environment will be its own instance, and it'll be separated. So this has been our full end-to-end process. We're covering monitoring. We're able to provision the data, test data that's synthetic, realistic, reliable, and deterministic. We're able to go through Flyway for version control, and then inject this into CI/CD. Now, back to Grant for what's next.
All right, stay up here with me though, please.
Yeah, well.
Because we might have a minute or two for questions. All right, so that's our end-to-end database DevOps solution that we've got today. Now, question is what's coming up next? So, whoops, I double-clicked now.
It's a thing.
Monitoring, our monitoring solution, best of breed monitoring solution for SQL Server. I can say that without even feeling bad about it anymore. We are best of breed in SQL Server. We are going to build one for Postgres. That's the plan, and we're on it. We now support Postgres on Linux, so we're ready for you on-prem. We support Postgres on Azure. Well, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. We support Postgres on AWS, both Aurora and RDS. We are very, very shortly, talking to the dev teams, going to release it on Azure. And right now, you do have to host on SQL Server, but we will be releasing host on Postgres shortly. So we are going to be 100% on Postgres, and it's going to be best of breed there. We are building out Oracle. We are building out MySQL as we speak. They're all coming. The same stuff you're going to be able to do on SQL Server, you're going to be able to do on the rest of these through a single pane of glass. That is our plan, one pane of glass to cover them all. Next, monitor. Well, we already did monitor. Flyway, well, Flyway covers 52 different relational database systems today. We're going to add some non-relational database systems. We're looking at Mongo, Snowflake, and Cassandra. They are coming. So we're going to be adding those into our Flyway product. In addition, you are working
I am.
on getting provisioning PaaS as a service. Yes, we are going to clone Azure. I'm excited. I'm serious. I'm excited. I can't wait. That's so cool. And more. Monitors going to Linux. Yes, we're going to be running on Linux as well as Windows. I mean, it's a new world. It really is. So with this, the Test Data Manager that we released in November has incremental data. Oh no, wait, this is the next thing.
It is?
New. God,
It is.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, we've not done this bit yet.
Yeah, we haven't done this bit yet. We're looking at setting up so we can do incremental data, meaning add new changes instead of re-imaging and re-cloning. We're going to make it so you can just do incremental changes. And we've got other integrations coming in it as well. With that, Flyway is going to be doing some new things called pipeline insights, where we observe how you do your deployments, and we're putting in deployment rules, meaning run these scripts on these environments, don't run these scripts, run these scripts on these other environments, and so on. Again, very exciting stuff. It's going to give you a lot more control. So between all of these, we really hope that what we're doing is any database, anywhere, because that's our plan. It's just that simple. We're adding new auditing. We're creating an enterprise solution for Monitor. I was just talking about a whole bunch of stuff we're doing on indexing, statistics. It's crazy. We're looking at pricing for tracking pricing on the cloud. We're adding query regression. I mean, it's when you've got 5 development teams, you do a lot of stuff, and that's just Monitor. That's not counting your team or the other development teams. It's great. I'm getting excited about it. Hopefully, with the addition of AI to the tools that we're doing and machine learning, we're changing not simply Redgate and what Redgate has to offer, but the stuff that you need to get your jobs done. And that's really our goal. The AI prompt in the English is hard. The AI in SQL Prompt Plus, allows you to take English and turn it into T-SQL queries. I was surprised that it actually does DDL as well as DML. I hadn't tested that prior to today, but I was showing some of our sales engineers how to work DDL in T-SQL, and I said, hey, you know what? Does the AI do it? And yeah, it does. You can just literally say, add a column to this table, and it generates the correct script. It's slick. We can optimize queries. We've long had linting, so we can identify common code smells in your code, but now we're using that to also modify the code for you. So you can literally say, optimize the query, and it will make an attempt. Now, I'm not telling you it's perfect. The Mark I eyeball is still going to be a big, big help. You're going to have to take a look at it, validate it, test it, but it's going to work. It creates stuff, it builds stuff, and it runs queries for you. It's really incredible. Now, you can get in on the EAP. So if you follow this link, redgate.com, prompt plus EAP, you can play with it yourself if you'd like. It's fun. You can break it, but it's still fun. I say you can break it because I've broken it a couple of times. But anyway, that's our end-to-end database DevOps solution. That's the database landscape as we understand it from your survey that you gave us. And hopefully, with the 5 minutes we got left, we can actually answer questions, including from online. Anybody on there making noise?
There is a bit of a lag, but if I get any, I'll explain.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Any questions in the room? Yes. No, I can hear you okay. All right, let me repeat it, and then you can answer it, because you've got the answer. Can we treat this as infrastructure as a code? Can we not only build out the databases for the people, but can we actually build out the servers for them as well?
Yes. Simple answer. Yeah. So all of this integrates directly into your Terraform, for example, your IAC. It'll drop straight in place.
Yeah, it really, it's shockingly simple. I mean, there's a ton of labor to get everything set up, but it's actually shockingly simple once you've done that. Any other questions? Online? Oh, yes.
Show your database industry charts again, sorry.
Which?
Market share charts, sorry.
Oh, the market share? Let's see.
I mean, showing it is easy. Finding it is the challenge.
Yes, exactly. Give me a sec. Escape. No? One sec.
That is impressive.
Yeah, that was great. That worked real well. Hang on one sec. Okay, there we go. Now, hang on. I've only got about 2 minutes. Totally sidetracked.
Can you tell he's got a thing for landscapes?
And there it is from the current slide. That one.
Yeah, I was just wondering what that, is it the snowflake chart line that just goes crazy there? What happened? You know?
Snowflake was introduced and everybody lost their minds. Who has not seen Snowflake just chasing them down the road? It was just crazy. Yeah, that's literally what happened. Is that they introduced it, there was some adaption, and then once those people started talking to each other, then it just went nuts. Yeah, it really is what happened. Yeah.
It's also
Or
worth
it's
noting
flattening. I mean, new data, all that stuff. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
It's also worth noting that this spikes during the COVID lockdowns as well.
Right.
So maybe there's a correlation there too.
All right, any other questions? If not, I think we are just about out of time. All right, cool. Thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you have a great day. If you have any other questions, chase us down at the booth.